Graeme Nielsen, founder and owner of Strathblane Falconry. Welcome to the Practical Animal Channel.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome, and the pleasure's all mine, Graeme. You are a falconer. You fly birds of prey for a living. There are people watching this who would love to do what you do. Please, can you tell us, how did you do it? Can you please describe your career from start to today?
Okay, I didn't really maybe do it in a very traditional way. I actually used to work in hospitality, working in hotels. I was working in a very upmarket hotel. And falconry was just something I did on the side. I paid money to go out and fly birds. And then the hotel I was working at, we were talking about opening up a bird of prey centre or a falconry centre. They were going to use my contacts. And I'd always sort of said at this hotel I was going to do like 2 years and out. And I ended up doing 4 years because I hung around because owners changed. And I said, right, okay. And then we're going to open up a bird of prey centre. And I said, well, I always wanted a wee bit of time for me. So I thought, you know what? How about we go and do this full time for 18 months, 2 years, have a bit of fun, do my hobby, do something that I really enjoy doing. And then we'll go get the career back on track and we'll get back into hotels and yeah, we'll go. And that was the plan. And that was 21 years ago. So yeah, that's how I ended up here. So I did sort of about 20 months working for somebody else, and then an opportunity came along and I went out my own. And looking back at it, it was a bit rash to go out my own. I kind of thought I knew what I was doing after 20 months of admittedly working full time with birds of prey, and I thought I knew. And going out on my own, it was daunting. I only had 7 birds, but it was really daunting and really quite scary at times, just sort of building up Strathblane Falconry for myself. And I sort of slowly built it up. But now I've been going with Strathblane Falconry for 19 years. And yeah, so that's really it. So it wasn't a normal way. It wasn't sort of degrees or volunteering or anything like that. It was kind of a bit of a jolly that has been going on for 21 years now. So yeah, not a normal way. So I'm maybe not the best person to follow. I had a lucky break. I had 2 lucky breaks and that was it. So that was it.
That's fantastic, Graeme. I've got to ask though, what can you tell us about this fantastic bird on your fist?
This is Tyree. He's a jerseyaker. He's been with me 7 years. He's got a lovely temperament. I'll take his hood off. He really is lovely. I have a lot of time for him. I mean, I love flying him. I love working with him. He's a really lovely bird to work with. But yeah, he's not maybe the best for big shows, unfortunately. He's been a bit hit and miss with events over the years. He has flown off a couple of times. I've chased him around the countryside. But we've been together 7 years. It's all part and parcel of the relationship. But yeah, he's probably wondering a wee bit why he's in the tack room. Normally, this is my office, my tack room, and the birds normally come in here, get weighed, write down weights down in the diary, and then it's off to fly them or out front on the weathering to feed them. So he's probably wondering a wee bit like, well, I've been fed, it's now late, it's dark outside, and why am I here? Why am I back in here? So he's probably a wee bit unsure, but hopefully he'll sit quietly on the glove for me and behave. Maybe put his hood back on just to let him calm down a little bit, make sure he doesn't start jumping around or baiting about.
Now, I absolutely loved the way you struck that hood, took that hood off, put it back on again so fluidly and perfectly. Can you give us a very brief 1-minute tutorial on how you train a falcon to the hood?
In 1 minute, right. He's very easy. I've had a few that will try and bite you as you come towards the hood. He's lovely. I'll give him that. We introduced the hood to him from a very early age. Pretty much the first day I got him, we put a hood on him to stop him jumping around, and we'd take the hood off and offer him food. And if he looked like he was going to jump around, the hood went back on. So he kind of got used to the hood. The hood's on, comes off, food's on the go. So he has no problem. He makes it, like I said, very easy. Just taking the hood on. We always use the plume at the top. This little bit, it does look like it's there for decoration, but it is just there for, it does serve a purpose. You always hold it that, never by the sides, because you don't want to push the leather up against the bird's head. And then you just slide it over the bird's head, sort of round the beak if you like. You don't just pull it straight off and it just comes off. he does, like I said, he is very easy to work with the hood. Even when putting the hood on, even though he's been fed and we're late in the evening, don't show me up, bird. Come on. He doesn't actually make too much fuss with his hood going back on, and he'll quite happily just sit with it, balance resting on his head, and then we can just pull the braces. That is it. So when I'm working with the hood, I introduce it to the birds as soon as possible, especially with the falcons. We like them to get used to it. I never do the put food in the hood and let the bird take food out of it. It's always just like food's in the glove, and then we just get the hood on. And slowly but surely he does it. He gets hooded on pretty much every day. He's dealing with the hood, so he is very good because I use him to demonstrate to people hooding falcons, and always just use pretty much bog standard plain hoods. Hoods are lovely, and I think I'd really grudge buying a really nice hood, really beautiful hood, and I trod on it, dropped it in the mud, turned my back with the bird who was wearing it, and I pulled it off and started chewing on it, or did the toilet on it, or all sorts of bad things happen to hoods when you're not looking. So I always buy just bog standard plain ones. So if anything bad happens to them, I don't feel too bad.
One of the reasons that I asked about the hood tutorial, if anybody's watching this and they feel they want to get into falconry, I think it's probably wise that I point out that training a bird to the hood, to accept the hood, is one of the first things that falconers do. Isn't that right, on the first day of training?
It is with the falcons. When I'm working with falcons, yes, I do. Harris hawks, I don't know. Traditionally, I haven't actually. I've not got any Harris hawks that I will take the hood. And part of the reason for that is with my Harris hawks, I do a lot of public work. I do a lot of corporate work. There could be a lot of random things going on. And so in some ways, I kind of want them to see as much as possible and actually desensitize them. But also when you're flying them, they spend more time on the wing. I don't spend too much time with them on the glove. These guys, I spend more time on the glove, maybe start taking them somewhere to fly. So you have the hood on. But the Harris hawks, traditionally, I haven't. If I'm doing like a show or a demonstration or a corporate event, there could be all sorts of random, from like pipers to people driving past in quad bikes, balloons, music. I've never really done it with. I'll be honest, I've never really done Harris hawks to the hood. I know some people say you should, and it makes life a lot easier, and I can understand that. But I think just dealing with randomness, because my Harris hawks tend to be out more doing. I do more work with them than these guys. I just want to be able to it's sitting in a tree. I don't need to watch it because he's seen all this before, and there is nothing here that's going to worry him because he's always seen it. But these guys, no, just because I always describe them as sprinters. They're sort of like high energy birds, and sort of like when they fly, there's like a real burst of energy as they chase the lure, and then it's all over. You want the fuel tanks full before you fly, so this is why we use the hood. But the Harris hawks always look a bit more as a marathon runner, so they can fly around a wee bit more first before it comes to the main event if you need them to do anything. So yeah, but the hood is something with the falcons. Yes, it's the first thing I'll do with a falcon. When I pick up a falcon, the first thing is hood on its head. Even when we cast it up and put the equipment on, the hood goes on the head first, just to try and calm it down so it's not seeing things and it's not reacting things. First thing that'll happen to it. And he'll spend the first couple of days under the hood, just sort of like manning them down and getting them used to things.
I absolutely love seeing birds of prey hooded on the weathering lawn, which brings me on to my next question, Graeme. What has been your proudest moment as a professional falconer?
It's always when you do a display, and even just like basic displays, it's if you do it really well and the birds fly well and they're turned out well, and because people are standing watching and they have an expectation. And if I meet that expectation or really try and exceed that expectation, that's when that's the proudest moments, when you do that and you meet the requirements of what people want. These are the proudest moments for me.
Graeme, you work professionally with birds of prey. What's your guiltiest pleasure?
I've been giving that one a little bit of thought, and I'll admit it's Spey. This is a female Harris hawk I've got on my team at the moment. I bought Spey 19 years ago, not long after I opened up. She was 6 months old. She's been in the aviary a little bit longer than you would normally like for a Harris hawk. And she'd had a bit of a rough start at the beginning. Her parents had been giving her a hard time in the aviary, so her feather condition wasn't great. She came out and she was a bit sort of looking a bit sort of scruffy and a bit tatty. And she was good for a couple of years, but she just started getting a wee bit of a handful. And there was a few things that just made me think, no, you're not right for life in the centre. And it comes down to temperament a lot when you're working with birds of prey and whether they're suitable for life in the centre. Some are just not. The Spey was kind of showing signs as she was getting older, she wasn't. So I sold her. And I sold her to somebody who had her for 14 years. I used to see her on a regular basis because I supplied the person with food. The Spey was always doing well, and she was doing the one thing that she was really good at, hunting. Brave, and she was committed, but she wasn't reckless. The guy who I sold her to said, "Can you take her back?" And I said, I was sort of driving somewhere, I pulled over and answered the phone, and I went, let me think about it. Thinking, there is no way I need this bird back. You can't take this bird back. You can't take this bird back. And I phoned the guy back. I said, yeah, okay, when does she need to go? And I took her back and I told my wife, I said, Spey's back. And my wife had never met Spey, but she'd heard all about this Harris Hawk. And my wife said, why? You're a rubbish businessman. You know what I mean? What's this bird going to contribute to Strathblane Falconry? And I was like, nothing, but it's Spey. Even though I hadn't owned her for 14 years and I sold her, even though she's not suitable, I still felt a sense of responsibility to her. I was the guy that sold her to this friend of mine. And so Spey was in trouble, not in trouble, but she needed somewhere to go. And I thought, well, no, she can come back to me and I'll take responsibility for her. And yeah, maybe try and maybe move her on again. But she's now 19 years old. Will she move on? I don't know. I haven't looked that hard, I'll be honest. My plan was to get her back and I'll move her on again, but I haven't looked that hard. And I like working with her, and she's a bit of a pain to work with when other people are around. She won't fly. She doesn't like flying when other people are around, but she'll fly perfectly for me when we're just the two of us. And sometimes it's just like hanging out with an old friend. It's the only way I can describe it. When I took her back out flying, it was just like, oh, this is so good to be back out with Spey. I mean, I was being a bit sentimental, but no, Spey is my guilty pleasure. I mean, when I fly her, I'm a bit like, yeah, I'm doing nothing for Strathblane Falconry at the moment. I'm just having some fun. And I should probably be at home, and I should probably be doing emails, and I should be probably looking at my books and doing the admin and stuff. Let's go and fly Spey.
Graeme, what are the skills, experiences, and personal qualities that have been key to your success as founder and owner of Strathblane Falconry?
Patience. Even though they're bred in captivity, and even though they could be several generations captive bred, the bird itself still is kind of hardwired to act and think very much like a wild bird. I mean, it's got the instinct to hunt. You got to remember that the bird is not domesticated; it's not your friend. So you've got to build up that relationship. So patience is, I would say, is important. But the other thing you've got to remember is, I work in the public eye, and to turn around, I've seen people who work with birds of prey or with and to go, it's all about the bird. And it's not all about the bird. It's about you and the bird, how you interact with the bird, your working relationship with the bird, how you come across with the bird, working with the bird, you treat it with respect. These are, I sort of feel, are important about how you conduct yourself in the public. Today, though, everybody's a photographer, and with social media, people are taking pictures, people are recording you, and you have no say in that, but you've got to conduct yourself properly and be on sort of like come across as being a professional. There's no excuses not to always focused on what you're doing. Got to be on point, if you like, the whole time when you're dealing with the public. And I think that's an important skill to have. You have to be able to conduct yourself properly in the public.
What books, experiences, or people have most influenced your thinking?
Certainly the biggest inspiration to me is a guy called Jim Wood. He's a bit of an old school falconer. He used to fly, he's well known for flying a golden eagle. He flies peregrines now. He's out flying falcons. I mean, for him, it's not demonstrations, it's out hunting. We go out hunting. Whenever I go down and see him, he's like, come on, we'll go out and kill a duck. You know, he's like, that's the whole point of falconry. Hunting. You fly your falcon, he flies falcons at ducks. That's it. I suppose the other person would be the person who allowed me to get into falconry. And that was my first boss, Julie. I will always be grateful to her for giving me the opportunity to start working with birds of prey.
Graeme, what is your view of bird of prey centres today?
I mean, the centre's got to be nice. There's got to be sort of real pride in what they're doing and how things are presented. With social media now, you can be called out if you're not doing it right very quickly. I think that is one of the good things with social media. It has probably raised standards, I mean, across the board.
What role is there for British falconry centres to be involved with overseas bird of prey conservation projects?
I'm involved with Project Lugger. I have one of their falcons here. And when Project Lugger started up, I was very keen to get involved. Or Luggers are something that I've always had a soft spot for. Some of these big international conservation things, they want sort of people who are accredited and affiliated and with real big reputations. Bird of prey centres in the UK are all different sizes and shapes, and I don't think there's sort of one size fits all. You have some that are sort of really quite big, and you have some that are really quite small, and you have some in the middle, and some that are only open part-time and seasonal, and some that are really sort of tagged on as an attraction to a bigger attraction or activity, and that kind of, they're sort of focused on that because that's what they're told to do. So I think it's very difficult for centres to, or for a lot of centres to be involved. For some, yes, they can do it very easily, but for others, like I said, I think it is a challenge.
Graeme, what is the rarest species of bird of prey you've worked with?
I'd probably say the lugger. So, I've always had luggers, and so I suspect the lugger is probably the rarest bird I work with. They do have a bit of a temper, and they're not the biggest, and they're not the quickest, and they're certainly not the most agile compared to some falcons. Yeah, I didn't see a lanner pull that stunt. Didn't see the saker do that, but lugger did it. I think the lugger is the rarest one. But like I said, I've always had a soft spot for the lugger. Been a real fan of it over the years.
Graeme, what's your best bird of prey fact, please?
I think it's when you tell people that a harpy eagle's got talons bigger than a grizzly bear's claws.
Graeme, does Strathblane Falconry take volunteers?
I do and I don't. I don't take normal volunteers. I get vet students out in the first year, second year, preclinical vet students, and they have to learn, or they have to basically do volunteer learning about husbandry before they start the clinical placements. Close to Glasgow Vet School, the vet students, when they come out, they're there to learn. And they're very focused. This is a course. They have to actually write a report on this and present it of their experience here at Strathblane Falconry. So they're sort of very focused and very sort of driven when they come in. And
how easy or difficult was it to get a specialist vet for the collection?
Actually, very easy. When I first started, I was a bit like, oh man, I need to get a vet. Who am I going to go? And I'd been working in Edinburgh. So I knew the vet school in Edinburgh, but Edinburgh's a bit far from Glasgow, and I'm on the north side of Glasgow. I mean, to get to Edinburgh Vet School was going to be over an hour. So I decided, well, Glasgow's got a vet school. I'll vote in Glasgow Vet School. And they were like, no, you have to be referred here. You need to speak to Alistair Laurie. He teaches exotics here, but he also has his own practice. I was like, okay. And so that was it. It was actually very easy. And his advice to me was, if you have any problems, just bring it to me. Don't go and speak to other vets, just bring it to me. And so his practice was only half an hour's drive from me. So I had that. I also have the advantage that my wife is a vet as well, with some exotic experience. And I would like to stress, not the reason I married her.
Graeme, somebody watching this who wants to work with birds of prey, what advice can you give them?
In Scotland, a lot of the centres tend to be quite small operations, couples, individuals, one or two people. Nobody's sort of like employing lots of people, so it can be very difficult to get into. And I mean, knowing the right person or being in the right place at the right time is basically how you're really going to get in, which makes it very difficult to give advice. Like I said, for myself, I had no bird of prey experience, and then I was working with birds of prey. I was working in a collection. I was very quickly sort of thrown in at the deep end, and I was sort of running a centre that had like 20 birds in it, doing 3 demonstrations a day on my own. So I turned up with an opportunity and sort of said to somebody, yeah, I've got this opportunity, do you want to do it? And that's how I got myself in the door. I think it's basically knowing the right people and getting involved in the centre, trying to get your foot in the centre, and basically just showing you're keen, trying to do that volunteer thing to build up the experience and knowledge, showing commitment, and listening to what you're told. I think a lot of people today, they'll sort of watch videos on YouTube and read books and read posts, and people are in a rush. And looking at stuff online, it's good, gives you a lot of information. I've gleaned a lot of information and a lot of knowledge from it, but it's very different to you're standing there dealing with the bird face to face, you know what I mean, on your hand, looking at you, and you're trying to manage the situation, trying to manage this bird and control it. It's very different to doing that when you get that. So yeah, you just got to sort of listen, you got to sort of just build up your knowledge, your experience, and ultimately you just got to be in the right place at the right time and see that opportunity and sort of present yourself, and hopefully you can get your foot in the door. I think that's the only advice I can do. You just got to be patient and look and try and build up the knowledge and understanding of what it is. And like I said, it's not just, and remember, it's not just all about the bird. If you work in a centre, it's about you as well, and how you come across and how you present yourself and how you manage situations. And it's easy when it all goes right, but when it's not going right and the pressure's on, you've got to still manage that situation. You've still got to come across professional. You've still got to come across maybe as approachable, which can be really difficult.
Graeme, is there anything you'd like to add?
I think if you decide to work with animals or birds, especially birds of prey, that's what I know about. But I think if you work with animals, any animal, for a lot of people, you are making it's a bit of a lifestyle choice. It's not Monday to Friday, 9 till 5. I mean, I work on my own. I work 7 days a week. So far this year, where are we? Middle of October, I haven't had a day off. And normally I'll go through a year, maybe 3-4 days off a year. That's really what I take. And that's okay. I'm comfortable with that. I'm happy with that. That's I knew what I was getting into when I made this decision 19 years ago, and it's always been a bit like that. But yeah, you can forget Monday to Friday. You are making a lifestyle choice, working with animals, and it doesn't make any difference. Birds of prey or big cats or even horses, or looking after cats and dogs, or chickens. You are making a lifestyle choice with it all. And it's something you got to feel passionate about. It's something you got to enjoy. It's lovely working with them when the sun is shining and you're standing there in shirt sleeves rolled up and sunglasses on and flying the birds, and it's great. And you're thinking, yeah, this is what I signed up for. This is what it is. But then you're in December or January and you're digging the snow out the doorway so you can get into the tack room, and you're looking at the water frozen hanging from the tap, and you're thinking, right, I better go and switch the kettle on because I'm going to need hot water to defrost the padlock so I can get in. Oh yeah, the kettle's frozen as well. That's going to take longer to defrost. And oh man, you know what I mean? You go out and the sleet comes on and you're getting soaked and all this kind of stuff. This is the stuff you don't see. This is the stuff when, yeah, you still got to be there. You can't turn around and say, oh, stuff this, I'm going home. You know what I mean? You've got to be there. You've got to show that commitment. Your guys, the birds, your animals, and your care are relying on you to be there. You know what I mean? If something goes wrong, you can't turn around and say, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going home. You know what I mean? You're thinking, I've got to deal with this situation. I've got to manage this. It's not it is 24/7. It is a lifestyle. It takes a lot of commitment. And so, yeah, that's what I would say. I think some people, they have nice romantic notions of working with animals, and these kind of, oh yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I think I would enjoy that. Yeah, I'm sure you will, but honestly, see when you're kneeling down in an aviary and it's freezing cold and you're basically chipping bird crap off the back wall that's frozen from the night before, there's no glamour in that. Okay, there's no excitement in that. And your fingers are numb and you're just trying to work out, you know what I mean, am I going to feel my toes again by the end, by this evening? So yeah, these are the moments that, yeah, you really kind of question it, but yeah, it's part of it. So yeah, it's been like that for 21 years. I'm still here. So that's all I've got to say.
Graeme Nielsen of Strathblane Falconry, thank you very much for being on the Practical Animal channel.
No worries. Thank you very much for inviting me again.